She collapsed clutching her newborn. No one helped, until a mysterious millionaire lifted her into. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. The cold wind cut through the streets of the city like a blade as snowflakes fell steadily from the grey sky, blanketing the sidewalks in a layer of white. Emma, a young mother exhausted from the challenges of the past weeks, stumbled along the icy sidewalk, clutching her newborn tightly to her chest, feeling the weight of both the child and the uncertainty pressing down on her. Her coat was thin and worn, and her gloves had holes at the fingertips, offering little protection against the biting cold. Each step was an effort, her boots slipping slightly on the slick pavement, and she could feel her body trembling from fatigue and exposure. People passed by in a blur, wrapped in thick coats and scarves, their attention elsewhere, and no one seemed to notice the young woman struggling to stay upright while holding the small fragile life that depended entirely on her. The baby whimpered softly, the sound barely audible over the distant hum of traffic and the occasional crunch of snow beneath hurried footsteps. Emma's thoughts raced, replaying the events that had led her to this moment, the sudden complications at home, the lack of family support, and the mounting stress of trying to provide for herself and her child in a city that often felt indifferent to the struggles of those who had fallen on hard times. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her shaking hands, and whispered softly to the newborn, promising that she would find safety and warmth, that they would not have to face the night alone. Just as her vision blurred from exhaustion and the cold threatened to make her knees buckle, a figure appeared from the swirling snow, moving with purpose and calm assurance. Gabriel, a tall man dressed in a long coat with the collar turned up against the wind, noticed the young mother. Struggling and without hesitation approached her, extending a strong arm to steady her and the baby. His presence was commanding yet gentle, his eyes showing concern and empathy that seemed almost out of place in the harsh winter scene. Emma looked up, surprise and hesitation mixing in her expression, unsure if this stranger would help or simply pass by like everyone else. Gabriel spoke in a calm voice that carried over the wind, asking if she was all right and offering his assistance in guiding her to a nearby sheltered area. Emma, though weary and skeptical, allowed herself to be led, feeling a glimmer of hope she had not felt in days. The street seemed less hostile with Gabriel by her side, his movements careful to avoid the icy patches while keeping the baby secure. Each step closer to warmth and safety was a small victory against the overwhelming sense of despair she had carried. As they approached the entrance of a small 24-hour diner, the glow of light spilling onto the snow-covered sidewalk seemed to embrace them, a sanctuary in the otherwise harsh city night. Gabriel gently helped Emma inside, ensuring she and the newborn were seated in a corner away from the cold drafts, while the smell of fresh coffee and baked goods provided a comforting contrast to the biting chill outside. Emma exhaled slowly, feeling a sense of relief wash over her, though her heart still raced from the effort and fear. Gabriel knelt beside her, offering blankets and hot drinks, his careful and attentive action speaking volumes about his concern without a single word of judgment or expectation. As Emma wrapped herself and her baby in the warm layers, she realized that this stranger was unlike anyone she had encountered, someone who had appeared at the exact moment she needed help the most. In the brief moments that followed, between sips of warm tea and the soft cooing of her baby, a silent understanding began to form between them, a bond forged in a shared moment of vulnerability and compassion, the first spark of trust that would grow as the story unfolded, revealing the true nature of the mysterious man who had entered their lives at the moment of greatest need. As Emma settled into the warmth of the diner, she couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. The chill from the outside had seeped into her bones, but now, with the soft hum of the diner's heat surrounding her, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. Gabriel, who had been quiet and composed since they entered, took a seat across from her, his calm presence offering her a sense of comfort. She wrapped the blankets around herself and her newborn, trying to steady her racing heart. The baby, feeling the warmth, had stopped fussing, and the quiet cooing soothed Emma's nerves. Gabriel poured her a cup of hot tea, placing it gently in front of her. "You must be exhausted," he said quietly, his voice soft but filled with an underlying strength. Emma nodded, taking a small sip of the tea. She had been running on empty for days, with no real rest, no time to recover from the strain of motherhood and the burdens of her life. "I am," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Gabriel watched her, his eyes thoughtful as if he were processing something deeper than the surface. After a few moments, he spoke again, this time with a hint of gentleness. "I don't know your story, but it seems like you've been through a lot. You're stronger than you realize." Emma's eyes flickered up to meet his, uncertain of how to respond. She wasn't used to people acknowledging her strength. She had always been the one to carry everything on her shoulders, and yet, in this moment, she felt vulnerable. She had never been one to accept help easily, but Gabriel's presence made it seem not so difficult. She stared into her tea for a long moment, thinking about how much had led her to this point. The struggles of being a single mother, the overwhelming sense of isolation, and the fear of never being able to provide the kind of life she wanted for her child. Gabriel, noticing her silence, let her be for a moment. He didn't push her to talk, and instead, he shifted the conversation in a different direction. "I don't want to intrude," he said, "but if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here. It's not easy, doing it all alone." Emma looked up at him, unsure of what to make of his kindness. People were rarely this genuine, especially to strangers. "Thank you," she said softly. "I'm not used to trusting people. I don't know if I can." Gabriel smiled, his expression warm and reassuring. "You don't have to trust me right away," he said. "But sometimes, just a little trust can make all the difference." They both fell into a comfortable silence for a while, the gentle hum of the diner and the soft clinking of plates and cups filling the space between them. As the evening wore on, Gabriel continued to offer small acts of kindness, refilling her tea, making sure the baby was comfortable, and offering soft words of encouragement. Emma began to relax, feeling a sense of safety in his presence that she hadn't felt in a long time. It was strange to feel this level of comfort with someone she had just met, but there was something about Gabriel that put her at ease. As the night grew later and the diner began to empty out, Emma knew that she had to leave eventually. She couldn't stay forever. The weight of her responsibilities loomed over her, and the reality of her situation was never far from her mind. Gabriel, sensing her unease, spoke up. "I understand you're probably trying to figure out your next move," he said. "But I want you to know that you don't have to do it alone. If you need help, I can assist you. I have resources, and I can help you get back on your feet. Whatever you need, I'll make sure you don't have to struggle in silence." Emma felt a knot form in her stomach. She hadn't expected this. Help? From him? She wasn't used to asking for help, and certainly not from a stranger, no matter how kind he seemed. "Why would you do that?" she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. Gabriel leaned back in his chair, his gaze steady. "Because I know what it feels like to need help and not have anyone to turn to. And because, sometimes people need a little kindness in their lives, especially when they least expect it." Emma stared at him, processing his words. There was sincerity in his voice, a warmth that made her wonder if he was telling the truth. But there was also a part of her that was afraid of trusting someone who could so easily walk away once he had given his help. "I don't know if I can accept your offer," she said. Quietly, her hands tightening around the baby. Gabriel's eyes softened. "You don't have to decide right now," he replied. "But know that the offer is there, whenever you're ready. No pressure." Emma nodded, unsure of what to say next. She wasn't ready to let someone into her life, not yet. But something in Gabriel's words, his calm demeanor, and his gentle kindness made her feel like maybe, just maybe, it was worth considering. As they finished their tea, Gabriel stood up, offering to call a cab for Emma to take her home. She hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. She had nothing to lose, after all. Gabriel paid for the meal and called a cab. As they walked out into the cold night, the snow still falling gently around them, Emma felt a flicker of hope for the first time in a long while. Maybe there was a way forward, and maybe Gabriel, the mysterious millionaire who had come into her life at the most unexpected moment, could help her find it. As Emma left the diner with Gabriel, the crisp night air hit her face, but the warmth she felt inside from his kindness lingered. The cab ride was quiet, but Emma couldn't stop thinking about the offer Gabriel had made. She had never allowed herself to rely on anyone, especially not a stranger. Yet something about Gabriel's presence, his calm assurance, and his genuine concern for her well-being made her feel as if she had been granted a lifeline, one she was not sure she deserved. When the cab finally reached her small apartment building, Gabriel helped her out, ensuring she had everything she needed before parting ways. "I'll be in touch," he said softly, a reassuring smile on his face. Emma nodded, her heart filled with a mixture of gratitude and uncertainty. She hadn't expected her life to take this turn, especially not with someone like Gabriel, a man who seemed to possess everything that she didn't: wealth, confidence, and a sense of purpose. Yet, as she watched him walk away, she couldn't help but feel a tiny spark of hope. The next few days were a blur for Emma. She tried to return to her routine, taking care of her newborn and doing what she could to make ends meet, but the weight of the offer Gabriel had made lingered heavily on her mind. Could she really trust him? Could she allow herself to accept help from someone she barely knew? Her pride told her to refuse, to continue struggling on her own, but the part of her that was exhausted and worn down by the constant battle for survival urged her to consider his offer. It was late one evening when she finally made the decision. She needed to know more. With a deep breath, she called the number Gabriel had given her. His voice answered on the second ring, calm and warm as always. "Hello, Emma. How are you?" "I'm okay," she replied, her voice wavering slightly. "I've been thinking about your offer, and I'm ready to hear more." Gabriel's voice softened, a hint of relief evident in his words. "I'm glad you called. Why don't you come by my office tomorrow? We can talk more about how I can help." The next morning, Emma found herself standing outside a sleek office building in the heart of the city. The contrast between her worn-out clothes and the polished exterior of the building felt jarring. She hesitated for a moment before gathering the courage to walk through the doors. Gabriel's office was just as impressive as the building itself. The walls were lined with bookshelves, and the view of the city from the floor-to-ceiling windows was breathtaking. It was a world that seemed so far removed from Emma's own. Gabriel stood when she entered, offering a warm smile. "I'm glad you came," he said, motioning for her to sit. "I know this is a big step, but I want you to feel comfortable with everything we discuss." Emma sat down, her hands nervously twisting in her lap. She didn't know what to expect, but she was willing to listen. "What exactly is it that you're offering?" she asked, her voice quiet but determined. Gabriel leaned back in his chair, his eyes thoughtful. "I know you've been through a lot, Emma. I want to help you get back on your feet. You've shown incredible strength in how you've managed everything, and I think you deserve a chance to build a better life for yourself and your child." He paused, letting his words sink in. "What I can offer you is financial support to help with your immediate needs, medical bills, living expenses, whatever it is you need. But more than that, I want to help you get a stable job, a career that will provide you with the independence and security you deserve. I want to see you succeed." Emma sat in stunned silence, her mind racing. This wasn't just help with a few bills, it was an opportunity for her to start over, to rebuild her life. But was it too good to be true? Gabriel seemed sincere, but she couldn't help but feel cautious. "Why me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why would you want to help me?" Gabriel's expression softened. "Because I know what it feels like to have nothing, to be in a position where you feel like you're drowning. And because I've been lucky enough to have the resources to make a difference in someone's life. I believe in paying it forward, and I think you have the potential to do great things if you're given the chance." Emma swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his words. She had never imagined that someone like Gabriel, a successful and wealthy man, would see anything in her but a young mother struggling to survive. Yet here he was, offering her something more than just charity. He was offering her a chance to change her life. "I don't know if I can accept this," she said, her voice trembling. "I've never depended on anyone, not like this. I'm afraid I'll let you down." Gabriel shook his head, his eyes gentle. "You won't let me down, Emma. This isn't about me, it's about you. You deserve a chance to live a life that isn't dictated by struggle and fear. All I'm asking is that you take the first step and let me help you along the way." Emma sat back in her chair, her heart pounding in her chest. It was a lot to take in, but a part of her knew that this was the opportunity she had been waiting for, the chance to escape the cycle of hardship she had been trapped in for so long. "Okay," she said finally, her voice steady. "I'll take the first step." Gabriel smiled, a genuine warmth in his expression. "That's all I ask. We'll take it one step at a time." And just like that, Emma's life began to change. She left Gabriel's office with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. It wasn't going to be easy, and there were still many challenges ahead. But for the first time in a long time, Emma allowed herself to believe that she could have a future, that she could build something better for herself and her child. The following week, Emma found herself walking into a new chapter of her life, one she had once thought was unattainable. After her meeting with Gabriel, everything had moved quickly. He had kept his word and connected her with a career counselor, helping her to find a steady job with decent pay. She was still adjusting to the idea of being employed, especially after months of struggling to make ends meet, but Gabriel's words echoed in her mind, "You deserve a chance to live a life that isn't dictated by struggle and fear." She held on to that hope, every morning reminding herself that she was no longer alone. She took the bus to her new job at a local office building. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. Her boss, Ms. Watkins, was kind and understanding, offering her a flexible schedule so she could still care for her baby. The work was simple, data entry and answering phones, but it gave her a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in a long time. Every day, she felt herself gaining a little more confidence, her fears about failure slowly receding. Emma found herself reflecting on the days when she thought her life was over, when everything seemed hopeless. But now, with every paycheck, every kind word from Ms. Watkins, and every shift she worked, Emma felt like she was finally moving forward. Gabriel had not only helped her find a job but also a sense of independence she hadn't realized she was missing. Over the next few weeks, Emma and Gabriel stayed in touch. He would check in on her progress, offering support when she needed it, but he never pushed too hard. His approach was gentle, and though she was still hesitant to accept everything he offered, she couldn't deny the impact he had made on her life. One afternoon, as Emma was wrapping up her workday, her phone buzzed with a message from Gabriel. "I was thinking about you today. Would you like to join me for dinner? There's something I want to talk to you about." Emma hesitated for a moment. She hadn't yet allowed herself to get too close to Gabriel, but curiosity and a sense of obligation to the man who had changed her life nudged her to accept. After all, he had done so much for her, the least she could do was share a meal with him. She agreed, and later that evening, Gabriel picked her up from her apartment. They went to a cozy Italian restaurant, the kind that had dim lighting and a relaxed atmosphere. Gabriel ordered for both of them, choosing dishes he thought she might like. Emma couldn't remember the last time she had eaten out at such a nice place, and for the first time in months, she felt a sense of normalcy, like she was no longer just a person struggling to survive but someone who could enjoy life. During dinner, Gabriel was his usual calm self, asking about Emma's work and how she was adjusting to her new life. But there was something different in his demeanor tonight. He seemed more serious, more thoughtful. "I've been thinking a lot about you, Emma," he said quietly, his gaze steady. "You've come so far in such a short time. But I know there's more you want to do. You don't have to do it alone. I want to help you, not just financially, but in other ways too." Emma felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She had been dreading this moment, the moment when Gabriel might ask for something in return. "I don't know if I can accept more help," she replied, her voice cautious. "I'm doing okay now. I don't want to owe anyone more than I already do." Gabriel's expression softened, and he reached across the table, placing his hand over hers. "It's not about owing me, Emma," he said gently. "It's about helping you build a future where you don't have to constantly fight to survive. You're stronger than you think, but everyone needs a little support sometimes." Emma looked down at their hands, her thoughts racing. She had never been good at accepting help, especially from someone as wealthy and powerful as Gabriel. But at that moment, something shifted inside her. She realized that she wasn't just accepting his help for herself, she was doing it for her child, for the future she wanted to give him. "Okay," she said softly, looking up at him. "I'll let you help me. But I don't want to be dependent on you forever. I want to stand on my own 2 feet, for me and my son." Gabriel smiled, his eyes filled with warmth. "That's exactly what I want for you, Emma. This is just the beginning. You don't have to do this alone, but you also don't have to be dependent on anyone. You'll get there, I believe in you." The rest of the evening passed in a quiet, comfortable conversation. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt hopeful about the future. As Gabriel drove her back to her apartment, she looked out the window, realizing that everything had changed. It wasn't just the job, the money, or the support from Gabriel. It was the fact that she had allowed herself to believe in something better. She had opened herself to the possibility of a future where she wasn't defined by her struggles, but by the choices she made moving forward. As she stepped out of the car and waved goodbye to Gabriel, Emma couldn't help but smile. She had no idea what the future held, but for the first time, she felt ready to face it. The following weeks brought a sense of stability to Emma's life. The initial whirlwind of changes had slowed down, and now she found herself adapting to a new rhythm. Her job at the office was going well, and every day felt like a step closer to a future she had almost given up on. She was learning to manage her time between work and caring for her newborn, and though it was a challenge, she felt a sense of accomplishment with each passing day. Gabriel continued to check in, offering his encouragement, but he never pushed too hard. He respected her space, allowing her to find her own way. Still, Emma couldn't help but feel the weight of his generosity. He had done so much for her, and though she appreciated it deeply, she still struggled with the idea of accepting help without giving anything in return. One evening, as Emma was getting ready to leave work, she received a text from Gabriel. "I know you're busy, but there's something important I'd like to discuss with you. Can you meet me tomorrow evening? No pressure, but I'd like to share something with you." Emma stared at the message, feeling a pang of anxiety. Gabriel had been nothing but kind to her, but the thought of another big conversation made her nervous. She had no idea what he wanted to talk about, and the uncertainty made her hesitant to respond. But after a few moments of thought, she decided it was best to go. She had come this far, and Gabriel had been nothing but supportive. She owed him that much. The next evening, Gabriel picked her up from her apartment, and they drove to a quiet restaurant with an intimate ambience. It was the same restaurant where they had shared their first meal together, and Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. They sat down at a table in the corner, and Gabriel ordered for both of them, choosing dishes with an elegance that made Emma feel both grateful and uncomfortable. She wasn't used to being treated this way. "You look well," Gabriel said with a smile as they settled into their seats. "I can see that things are going well with your job. I'm really proud of you, Emma." She blushed, not sure how to respond. It felt odd to hear someone praise her, especially Gabriel, who had done so much for her. "Thank you," she said quietly, taking a sip of her water. "I'm doing my best." Gabriel studied her for a moment, his gaze thoughtful. "I've been thinking a lot about your future," he said. "You've made incredible progress, but I know there's more you want to do. You've got big dreams, Emma. And I want to help you make them a reality." Emma felt her heart race. The thought of her dreams, her hopes for a better future, seemed so distant, so unreal at times. But with Gabriel's words, they suddenly felt within reach. "I don't know if I'm ready to dream that big," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I've never really allowed myself to think beyond just getting by." Gabriel reached across the table and gently took her hand in his. "You're not alone anymore, Emma. You've got someone who believes in you. And together, we can make those dreams come true. I know you've been hesitant to accept more help, but I want to offer you something that could change everything." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She wasn't sure if she was ready for another big decision, but something about Gabriel's sincerity made her want to listen. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Gabriel smiled, his eyes filled with warmth. "I've been working on something. A new project. A way for you to invest in your future. It's a career opportunity that could give you the financial freedom and independence you deserve. It's not just a job, Emma, it's a chance to truly change your life. But it's up to you. I won't pressure you to make a decision tonight. Just know that the offer is there." Emma sat back in her chair, her mind racing. She had always dreamed of having a life where she didn't have to worry about where the next meal would come from or whether she could afford her rent. But it had always seemed like an impossible dream. Now, Gabriel was offering her a chance to achieve that dream. It was more than she had ever expected, and more than she thought she deserved. But something inside her told her that this might be her chance to truly change everything. "I don't know what to say," she said quietly, her fingers tightening around her glass. "I've never been good at trusting people, especially when it comes to things like this. I'm afraid I'll fail." Gabriel's expression softened, and he squeezed her hand gently. "You're not alone in this, Emma. I believe in you. And even if things don't go perfectly, I'll be here to help you every step of the way. The most important thing is that you take that first step." Emma's heart swelled with emotion as she looked at him. She wasn't sure if she was ready to fully trust him, but she knew that this opportunity was too important to let slip by. For the first time in a long time, she felt a glimmer of hope for the future. "Okay," she said, her voice steady. "I'll take the first step." Gabriel smiled, his eyes filled with pride. "That's all I ask. You've already done so much, Emma. You're stronger than you realize. Now, let's build a future together." As they finished their meal, Emma felt a sense of clarity she hadn't had in years. This was the beginning of something new, something that could change her life forever. And for the first time, she was ready to face the future, no matter what it held. As Emma walked through the doors of the new office building for her first day at the career opportunity Gabriel had mentioned, she felt a strange mixture of excitement and anxiety. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the opportunity to change her life and finally step into the future she had always dreamed of. Gabriel had arranged everything, from the interview to the orientation. All she had to do was show up and give her best effort. But standing in front of the polished glass doors, she felt the weight of her decision. The past weeks had been a whirlwind of change. She had left behind her old life of struggle and uncertainty, stepping into a world she barely recognized. Gabriel's support had been unwavering, but now, it was time for her to prove that she was capable of standing on her own. Inside, the office was sleek and modern, the kind of place where people in suits discussed big deals and made things happen. The contrast between this world and the one Emma had come from was striking. She couldn't help but feel out of place, but at the same time, she felt a sense of determination building within her. This was her chance. She had to make it count. Her first day was filled with introductions and training, a blur of information she had to process. As she sat through the orientation sessions, listening to the company's vision and values, she felt a mix of disbelief and hope. This was really happening. She was here, and she wasn't going to let it slip away. The people she met were kind and welcoming, though she could tell they were curious about her background. Emma wasn't used to the attention, and she felt the weight of her own insecurities. She had spent so long hiding her struggles that it was hard to admit to herself how much she still had to learn. But as the day went on, she found herself relaxing. She was being given a chance, a real opportunity to prove herself, and she wasn't going to waste it. At the end of the day, Gabriel sent her a message. "How did it go? I'm really proud of you for taking this step. I know you'll do great things." His words meant the world to Emma. It was a reminder that, despite all her doubts, she had made the right choice. Gabriel had been there for her every step of the way, but now, it was up to her to take charge of her own destiny. The following days were filled with more training and getting to know her colleagues. Emma quickly learned that the job was not going to be easy. There were high expectations, and she often felt like she was barely keeping up. But every time she wanted to give up, she thought about her son and the life she wanted to give him. She couldn't go back to the life of uncertainty and fear. She had to succeed. Over the next few weeks, Emma's confidence grew. She became more comfortable in her new role, learning new skills and gaining the trust of her colleagues. Gabriel continued to check in on her progress, offering advice and encouragement. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for everything he had done for her, but she was also starting to see that she was capable of more than she had ever thought possible. One afternoon, as she sat at her desk, she received another message from Gabriel. "I've been thinking a lot about you and your future. There's an opportunity I think you should consider. I want to help you take the next step." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had worked so hard to get to this point, and now Gabriel was offering her something else. She was hesitant but also excited. What was this next step? What more could he possibly want to offer her? She texted him back, agreeing to meet later that evening. When they sat down at a small cafe, Gabriel wasted no time in getting to the point. "I've been thinking about your potential," he said, his eyes serious but kind. "You've shown so much promise in such a short time, and I think it's time for you to take on a bigger role. There's an opening in the company that I think you're perfect for. It's a leadership position, and it could be the breakthrough you've been waiting for." Emma stared at him in disbelief. A leadership position? She hadn't even begun to fully believe in her own capabilities, let alone take on a position of responsibility. But Gabriel's confidence in her was unwavering. "I know it's a big step," he continued, "but I believe you're ready. You've already proven that you're capable of much more than you give yourself credit for." Emma's mind raced. She hadn't expected this, not after everything she had been through. A leadership role? It felt like a dream. But she also knew that this could be her chance to truly make a difference in her life and the life of her son. Gabriel was offering her more than just a job, he was offering her a future. "I don't know if I'm ready for that," Emma said quietly, her voice unsure. "It's a lot to take on." Gabriel reached across the table, his hand gently resting on hers. "You don't have to decide right now," he said. "But think about it. This is your chance to take control of your future, to show everyone, including yourself, that you can do anything." Emma sat back, processing his words. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to imagine what it would be like to truly succeed, to not just get by, but to thrive. She wasn't sure if she was ready, but she knew one thing for sure: she was no longer the woman who had felt hopeless and trapped. She was someone who had the power to change her life. And with Gabriel's help, she could take that first step toward something greater. "Okay," she said finally, her voice steady. "I'll consider it." Gabriel smiled, his eyes filled with pride. "That's all I ask. You've already proven that you're capable of great things, Emma. Now, it's time to show the world what you're made of." As Emma left the cafe that night, her mind was filled with possibilities. She didn't know exactly what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to face it head-on. And with Gabriel's belief in her, she knew she could accomplish anything. The weeks following Emma's conversation with Gabriel felt like a whirlwind. She couldn't help but think about the opportunity he had offered her, a leadership role at the company. It was something she had never imagined for herself. Despite her reservations, she knew deep down that this was the chance she had been waiting for. Every day, she pushed herself harder, balancing her responsibilities at work and at home while contemplating Gabriel's words. Slowly, she began to feel more confident, more capable. She had made it this far, and the possibility of taking on more responsibility no longer felt impossible. Yet, doubt still lingered in the back of her mind. She had never been the one to stand in the spotlight, never the one to take charge. Her past had been defined by survival, not leadership. But Gabriel's belief in her continued to echo in her thoughts, urging her to step outside of her comfort zone. One afternoon, as Emma was finishing up her work at the office, she received an unexpected visit. Her colleague, Rachel, whom she had grown close to in the past few weeks, walked over to her desk with a curious smile. Hey, Emma, can we talk for a minute? She asked, her voice casual but laced with a hint of something else. Emma looked up from her work, a little startled. Sure, what's up? Rachel hesitated, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. I wanted to ask you something, she said, lowering her voice. I've noticed how hard you've been working lately, and I've heard a few things around the office. There's talk about you being considered for a leadership position. Is that true? Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected anyone to notice or talk about it. She had been keeping her head down, trying to prove herself without drawing too much attention. I don't know, Emma replied, her voice quiet. I've been offered the opportunity, but I'm still not sure if I'm ready for it. Rachel raised an eyebrow, her tone shifting to one of understanding. Emma, I can see the potential in you. You're smart, dedicated, and you've been handling everything so well. If anyone deserves that role, it's you. Don't sell yourself short. Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest at Rachel's words. It was the first time someone had openly encouraged her in such a way. She had always believed that she had to prove herself to others, but Rachel's support made her realize that she didn't have to do it alone. Thank you, Emma said, her voice full of gratitude. I appreciate you saying that. It means a lot. Rachel smiled, her expression genuine. You've got this, Emma. You've already come so far. Don't be afraid to take the next step. I'm rooting for you. The conversation with Rachel left Emma feeling more confident than ever. She had always doubted herself, but seeing how others believed in her made her realize that maybe she wasn't as far from being ready as she had thought. The next few days passed in a blur of decision-making and self-reflection. Emma spent hours thinking about her future, her goals, and the role that Gabriel had offered her. Every time she thought about it, a sense of excitement bubbled up inside her. She could do this. She had already proven to herself that she was capable of handling responsibility. It was time to take the next step and show everyone, including herself, that she could be a leader. On the day she made her decision, Emma texted Gabriel, asking to meet him after work. Gabriel, as always, was prompt in his response. Of course, I'll be there. Looking forward to hearing what you've decided. When they met that evening at a quiet cafe, Emma felt her nerves kick in once again. But this time, it was different. She wasn't nervous because she wasn't sure anymore. She was nervous because she knew that this decision would change everything. She sat down across from Gabriel, taking a deep breath. I've been thinking a lot, she began, her voice steady but filled with anticipation. I'm ready. I'm ready to take on the leadership role. I know it's a big step, but I want to prove to myself that I can do it. I want to build a future, not just for me, but for my son. I'm ready to take control of my life. Gabriel's eyes lit up with pride, and a smile spread across his face. I knew you would come to this decision, Emma. You've always had it in you. I'm so proud of you for taking this step. This is just the beginning, and I know you'll do great things. Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. It was the first time in a long time that she felt truly ready for something. For the first time, she wasn't just surviving, she was living, and she was ready to thrive. As they talked more about the next steps in her new role, Emma felt a sense of clarity and determination like never before. She knew there would be challenges ahead, but she was no longer afraid of them. She had already overcome so much. The future was hers to shape. Gabriel's unwavering support and belief in her had given her the confidence she needed to take that leap. And now, with that first step taken, Emma felt like she was finally stepping into the life she had always dreamed of, a life filled with purpose, hope, and a future that was hers to create. Emma's first few weeks in her new leadership role were filled with a mixture of excitement, nerves, and a deep sense of responsibility. She had made the decision to step up, to take control of her future, and now, she was living it. Her role at the company was more demanding than anything she had ever done before, but with each passing day, she felt herself growing stronger, more capable. The transition wasn't easy. Emma had to learn to balance her work, her responsibilities at home, and her own personal growth. Some days felt like an uphill battle, and she doubted herself more than once. But every time those doubts crept in, she thought about her son, the life she wanted to build for him, and the future she was finally shaping. Gabriel continued to offer his support, but he had also given her the space she needed to prove herself. He respected her independence, and while he remained a steady presence in her life, he never once pressured her. It was clear that he wanted her to succeed for herself, not because of his help. One morning, as Emma walked into the office, she noticed a change in the atmosphere. People were speaking in hushed tones, and there was an unmistakable air of tension in the building. She made her way to her desk, trying to shake off the feeling of unease. As she sat down, Rachel approached her, her face pale and worried. "Emma," she said softly, "have you heard? There's talk of a merger, and some of the higher-ups are saying there will be layoffs." Emma's heart skipped a beat. A merger? Layoffs? The news hit her like a punch to the gut. She had only just begun to feel secure in her new role, and now, it seemed like the ground beneath her was shaking. "No, I hadn't heard," Emma replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "What's going to happen?" Rachel shrugged, her face filled with concern. "No one knows for sure. But things are changing, and they might change fast. I'm just worried about what this means for us." Emma felt a wave of panic rise within her. She had worked so hard to get here, and the thought of losing it all so soon after finally achieving something was terrifying. She couldn't afford to fail. She wouldn't fail. Taking a deep breath, Emma tried to focus. She couldn't let this news distract her. She had to stay calm, stay focused. The day passed in a blur of meetings and unanswered questions. Emma found herself trying to stay on top of her work, but the uncertainty hung over her like a dark cloud. That evening, when the office finally cleared out, Gabriel sent her a message, "How's your day going? I wanted to check in and see how you're doing." Emma stared at the message for a moment, unsure how to respond. She didn't want to burden him with her worries, but she also knew that she couldn't keep everything inside. She needed to talk about it. She quickly typed back, her fingers trembling slightly, "There's talk of a merger at the office, and some layoffs might be coming. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm really scared." Gabriel's response was immediate, "I'm sorry to hear that. But listen to me, Emma. You've already proven how capable you are. You're strong, and no matter what happens, you're going to come out of this on top. You're not alone in this. I believe in you, and I'm here for you." His words were like a lifeline, pulling her back from the brink of panic. Gabriel was right. She had worked too hard to let fear take over. She couldn't let uncertainty dictate her future. Emma took a few deep breaths, allowing his words to sink in. She had come this far, and she wasn't going to back down now. The next day, Emma walked into the office with a renewed sense of determination. She wasn't going to let the possibility of layoffs hold her back. She had made it this far on her own, and she was going to continue to give it her all. As the days passed, the tension at the office only increased. The rumors about the merger grew louder, and the uncertainty weighed heavily on everyone. But through it all, Emma remained focused. She handled her responsibilities with grace, doing everything she could to keep her team on track. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew that she had the power to face it head on. Then, one afternoon, the news came. The merger was official, and the company would be restructuring. There were going to be layoffs. Emma's heart sank as she heard the announcement, but she refused to let panic take over. She had prepared herself for this moment, and she wasn't going to let fear control her. That evening, Gabriel called her. "I know things are uncertain right now," he said, his voice warm and reassuring. "But I want you to remember something, no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. You've already proven that you're strong, capable, and deserving of success. Keep believing in yourself, and you'll find a way through this." Emma felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. Gabriel's support had always been unwavering, but now, more than ever, she needed it. She had come so far, and no matter what happened next, she wasn't going to give up. As the days passed, Emma continued to give her best. She helped her colleagues navigate the uncertainty of the merger, offering support and encouragement where she could. She knew that the future was still uncertain, but one thing was for sure: she wasn't going to let it stop her. She had worked too hard to let fear take over, and she had the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Weeks passed since the announcement of the merger, and the tension at the office continued to build. Emma had stayed focused on her work, pushing aside her anxieties and doing her best to lead her team through the uncertainty. She had grown more confident in her role, and with each passing day, she felt more capable. Gabriel's encouragement remained a constant source of strength, but the reality of the situation was still weighing on her. She had heard whispers about layoffs, and while she had done everything she could to stay positive, a sense of dread lingered. It wasn't until one afternoon that Emma's worst fears came true. She had just finished a meeting when she received a call from her boss, Ms. Watkins. "Emma," Ms. Watkins began, her tone tight, "I need to speak with you. Please come to my office." Emma's stomach churned as she walked to Ms. Watkins's office. She had been preparing for this moment, but it didn't make it any easier. She knew the company had been making cuts, and the fear of losing her job was now a very real possibility. When she entered Ms. Watkins's office, her boss motioned for her to sit. "I know this is a difficult time for all of us," Ms. Watkins began, her voice sympathetic. "And I wanted to speak with you directly. The merger has led to some restructuring, and unfortunately, some positions are being eliminated. I'm sorry to say that your position is one of them." Emma's heart dropped. She had worked so hard to get to this point, and now, it felt like everything was slipping away. She tried to keep her composure, but the tears threatened to spill. "I understand," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for the opportunity." Ms. Watkins looked at her with empathy. "I know this is difficult, Emma. I want you to know that you've done great work here, and this decision is not a reflection of your abilities. This is just a result of the restructuring. I will make sure you have all the resources and support you need during this transition. You're welcome to stay for the remainder of the week, or if you'd prefer, we can arrange for a severance package to help with the next steps." Emma nodded, feeling numb. She had expected it, but it still hurt. She had worked so hard, given so much, and now it felt like everything had been taken away in an instant. As she left Ms. Watkins's office, the weight of the news sank in. She walked back to her desk, feeling like she was in a daze. Her colleagues were talking in hushed voices, their eyes on her as they realized what had just happened. Emma took a deep breath and forced herself to smile. She wouldn't let this break her. She couldn't. That evening, after work, Emma went home and sat with her son, holding him tightly in her arms. She needed the comfort of his presence, the reminder that she still had something to fight for. She couldn't let this setback define her. She had come so far. She had the strength to get back up, to find another way forward. She couldn't waste the progress she had made. She picked up her phone and called Gabriel. When he answered, she let out a shaky breath. "I lost my job," she said, her voice breaking. "They let me go. The merger, it's all happening so fast, and I don't know what to do." Gabriel's voice was warm and steady. "I'm so sorry to hear that, Emma. But listen to me, you're not alone in this. You've proven how strong you are, and I know this won't keep you down for long. This is just a bump in the road, and I'm here to help however I can. We'll figure this out together." Emma wiped away a tear. She hadn't expected him to be so calm, so reassuring. His words gave her the strength to believe that things would get better. The next morning, Emma woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. She had a son to care for, a future to build, and she wasn't going to let a job loss define her. She updated her resume and reached out to her professional network, sending out applications and setting up interviews. She was determined to find something even better than before. Days turned into weeks, and while the job search was challenging, Emma didn't give up. Every rejection only fueled her determination. She had come too far to let this setback derail her. Then, one afternoon, she received an email from a company she had applied to weeks earlier. They wanted to schedule an interview. The feeling of excitement that surged through her was indescribable. She had done it. She had turned the setback into an opportunity. Gabriel continued to check in on her, offering support and encouragement. He never once doubted her, and his belief in her gave Emma the confidence she needed to keep pushing forward. The day of her interview, she dressed in her best suit, her heart pounding with nervous anticipation. But as she walked into the interview room, she felt a sense of calm settle over her. She was ready. She had nothing to lose. The interview went well, and a few days later, Emma received the news: she got the job. It wasn't just any job, it was a promotion from her last position, a step up in her career. She had done it. She had turned her life around. When she called Gabriel to share the news, he was ecstatic. "I knew you could do it, Emma. You've worked so hard, and you deserve this. I'm so proud of you." Emma's heart swelled with gratitude. She couldn't have done it without his support, without his belief in her when she had trouble believing in herself. She had taken a risk, stepped out of her comfort zone, and now she had a brighter future ahead of her. As she looked at her son, sleeping peacefully in his crib, Emma smiled. She had fought for her future, and she had won. Emma stood at the edge of a new chapter in her life, one that had come with its fair share of challenges and triumphs. Her new job was everything she had worked for, a true turning point in her career. Yet, with each passing day, she felt a mixture of excitement and uncertainty. The work was demanding, and as she settled into her new role, she found herself constantly pushing her limits. The pressure to succeed was palpable, but Emma refused to let it overwhelm her. Every task she took on, she did so with a determination that was fueled by everything she had endured to get to this point. At home, things were steadily improving. Her son, now growing, was thriving, and Emma had found a balance between her professional and personal life that she had never thought possible. Gabriel had been a steady source of support through it all, never failing to check in and offer guidance when needed. As much as she had gained in terms of stability, Emma couldn't ignore the whispers of change in the air. The company, with its new direction and restructuring, still felt like a fragile environment. Emma had seen many others come and go during the merger process, and although she had secured her position, a nagging fear lingered that the rug might be pulled out from under her again. She tried to focus on the positives, the strides she had made in her career, and the incredible opportunities before her, but the anxiety never fully left her. One morning, after a particularly hectic night with her son, Emma found herself sitting in her car outside the office, staring at the building in front of her. She was early for work, as always, but today felt different. She wasn't sure if it was the pressure of the upcoming projects or just the weight of the uncertainty that seemed to hover over the company, but something inside her was unsettled. Before she could overthink it any further, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Gabriel. "I know. Things are tough right now, but you've got this, Emma. Keep believing in yourself. I'm proud of everything you've achieved, and I know you'll continue to amaze yourself." She smiled at the message, feeling a warm rush of gratitude toward him. Gabriel had been there from the start, and his unwavering belief in her had never wavered. He had pushed her to take risks, to believe in her abilities when she had trouble seeing it for herself. His support had meant more to her than words could express. With renewed determination, Emma opened the door of her car and stepped out. She had already come so far. This was just another challenge she would face head-on. Inside the office, the atmosphere felt different that day. People were buzzing with rumors, discussing the latest restructuring and the impact it was going to have. Emma had worked hard to remain focused on her own tasks, but she couldn't help overhearing snippets of conversations. One conversation in particular caught her attention. "I heard they're going to bring in new leadership to oversee the changes," one colleague said. "It's going to be a tough transition. A lot of people are worried about their jobs." Emma's stomach tightened. The uncertainty was real. It wasn't just affecting the company, it was affecting her team. They were relying on her, and the weight of that responsibility made her heart race. It wasn't just about her anymore. She had built trust with her team, and now, as a leader, it was her job to protect that trust and guide them through whatever was coming. That evening, after another long day at work, Emma met Gabriel for dinner. They sat at their usual quiet corner of the restaurant, where she had once found comfort in his words during her most uncertain moments. This time, however, the conversation felt heavier. Gabriel could tell that Emma was on edge. "What's going on, Emma?" he asked, his voice gentle but probing. "You've seemed a little distracted lately." Emma sighed, setting down her fork. "There's so much uncertainty at work right now. People are worried about the restructuring. I'm not sure what's going to happen next, but it's affecting everyone, including my team. I have to make sure they're okay, but I'm not sure I have all the answers." Gabriel leaned in slightly, his gaze steady. "You're doing everything you can, Emma. You've always been a leader, even when you didn't recognize it. The fact that you care so deeply about your team is what makes you a great leader." Emma looked down at her hands, feeling the weight of his words. She had always doubted her ability to lead, but Gabriel was right. She had taken on this responsibility, and even though it was overwhelming, she was doing it. "But I don't have all the answers," she said softly. "I don't know how to navigate the uncertainty. I'm scared of failing, of letting everyone down." Gabriel reached across the table, gently taking her hand. "Emma, you don't have to have all the answers. No one does. What matters is that you're there for them, that you're leading with integrity. They trust you because they see your strength. And as for you, you've already proven that you can overcome anything." Emma felt a surge of emotion. She had worked so hard to get here, and the idea of letting her team down was a fear she couldn't shake. But Gabriel's unwavering belief in her was like a lifeline, pulling her back from the edge of self-doubt. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Thank you," she whispered, squeezing his hand. "I don't know what I would do without you." Gabriel smiled, his expression filled with pride. "You would be just fine, Emma. You've always been strong, even when you didn't realize it." As they finished their meal, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in weeks. She knew the future was uncertain, but she also knew she was ready for whatever it held. With Gabriel's support, and her own growing confidence, she was ready to face the challenges ahead. No matter what came next, she knew one thing for certain: she was not alone, and she was capable of far more than she had ever imagined. Weeks passed, and Emma's resolve was tested daily. The company's merger continued to reshape the landscape, with constant changes swirling around her and her team. Though Emma had once feared that she might buckle under the pressure, something inside her had shifted. She was not the woman she had been when she started this journey. The lesson she had learned, both from her own struggles and Gabriel's unwavering support, had made her stronger. Still, as the days went on, the atmosphere at the office remained tense. There were talks of more layoffs, rumors about new management coming in, and a sense of instability that seemed to hang in the air like a storm cloud. But Emma had grown used to navigating uncertainty. She no longer allowed it to paralyze her. Instead, she used it as fuel to keep pushing forward. She had always been a survivor, but now she was a leader, someone who could inspire others to keep moving even when the future was unclear. One day, as Emma sat in a meeting with her team, discussing the latest developments from upper management, she could see the worry in their eyes. Her colleagues were anxious about their jobs, about the changes that were being thrust upon them. It was no longer just about surviving the changes, it was about leading them through it. "I know this has been a difficult time for all of us," Emma said, her voice steady as she addressed the room. "I can't promise that everything will be easy, but I can promise you that we're in this together. I will do everything I can to help guide us through these challenges. We're a team, and that's what matters most right now." She saw a few nods around the room, a few faces light up with a flicker of hope. For the first time in a while, Emma felt like she was living up to the role she had been given. She wasn't just managing, she was leading, and it felt right. Later that evening, after a long day of navigating the corporate maze, Emma received a call from Gabriel. "I know things have been tough lately," he said when she picked up, his voice full of concern. "How are you holding up?" Emma leaned back in her chair, her body aching from the day's work. "I'm doing okay," she said, though the words felt more like an affirmation of what she wanted to be true than what actually was. "I'm trying to stay strong, but it's hard sometimes. There's so much uncertainty at the office. I just want to make sure I'm doing right by my team." Gabriel's tone softened. "You're doing more than enough, Emma. You're leading with heart, and that's what counts. I know it's hard, but remember, you don't have to carry all of this alone. You've got a team behind you, and you've got me. I believe in you." Emma smiled, the weight of his words lifting her spirit, if only for a moment. "Thank you, Gabriel. I don't know what I'd do without you." Gabriel's voice was warm as ever. "You'd be just fine. But I'm happy to be here for you, no matter what. Keep doing what you're doing, Emma. You're stronger than you realize." Emma ended the call feeling a little lighter, a little more capable. She had come so far, and while the future was still uncertain, she knew she wasn't alone. As the days went by, Emma continued to face the challenges at work with the same determination that had carried her through every trial so far. Despite the uncertainty surrounding the merger, she remained focused on what she could control: her leadership, her team, and her own future. The office atmosphere gradually shifted. It wasn't easy, and it certainly wasn't fast, but Emma's steady presence began to have an impact. People looked to her for guidance, and she made sure to always be there for them, offering support when needed and leading by example. Her team's morale improved, and while not everyone was happy with the changes, they respected Emma for the way she handled the situation. Then, just as things began to settle down, another curveball came her way. One afternoon, Emma was called into a meeting with senior management. As she entered the conference room, her heart began to race. She had no idea what the meeting was about, but the serious expressions on their faces made her nervous. "Emma, thank you for joining us," her boss said, giving her a solemn look. "We've been reviewing the team's performance, and we've been impressed with your leadership. Given the ongoing changes in the company, we'd like to offer you a more senior position." Emma's eyes widened in surprise. She had not expected this. The offer was unexpected, but it was a sign of the hard work she had put in. The position wasn't just a promotion, it was a recognition of everything she had achieved. She felt a mix of pride and disbelief. "I'm honored," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Thank you." The offer was a turning point for Emma. It was a recognition of how far she had come, of how much she had grown. But it also represented a new challenge, one that would push her even further. She knew it would require more from her, more responsibility, more sacrifice, but it was also an opportunity to lead in ways she had never imagined. That evening, she called Gabriel to share the news. "They offered me the senior position," she said, her voice filled with both excitement and apprehension. "I don't know what to do." Gabriel's voice was filled with pride. "You've earned it, Emma. You've worked so hard, and now it's time to take the next step. Don't be afraid to embrace this new challenge. I know you'll continue to thrive." Emma felt a surge of gratitude. She had done it, she had worked hard, fought through every obstacle, and now she was being given the chance to grow even more. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Emma felt ready for whatever it held. Emma's life had shifted again in ways she hadn't fully expected. The senior position she had been offered felt like both a reward and a heavy responsibility. It wasn't just about climbing the corporate ladder, it was about everything she had fought for, the chance to prove to herself and to everyone around her that she was capable of much more than she had ever believed. As she walked into her new office on the first day of her new role, Emma couldn't help but feel the weight of the transition. The office was larger, more polished, with a view that overlooked the city she had come to call home. It was everything she had worked for, but it came with its own set of challenges. People now looked to her for guidance, and the stakes were higher than ever. It was no longer just about managing a small team. Now, she was responsible for the success of an entire department. She couldn't afford to falter, not now. Gabriel's words echoed in her mind, "Don't be afraid to embrace this new challenge. I know you'll continue to thrive. She had worked so hard to get here, and she wasn't going to let it slip away. The first few weeks were overwhelming. Emma had to get used to managing people at a higher level, balancing the expectations of upper management while still keeping her team motivated. There were times when she felt completely out of her depth, but she pushed through. She leaned on her team, her colleagues, and of course, Gabriel. He had become not only a mentor but also a close friend, someone she could turn to when the pressure got too much. One afternoon, as Emma sat in her office reviewing a stack of reports, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Gabriel. How's the new role treating you? I'm sure you're doing great. Emma smiled, grateful for his constant support. She quickly typed back, it's been tough, but I'm getting there. I'm not used to this level of responsibility, but I'm doing my best. Gabriel's response came almost immediately, I've always known you were capable of great things. Keep pushing. You've got this. The words gave her the strength to keep going. Over the next few weeks, Emma began to feel more comfortable in her new position. She had already built a strong foundation in her previous role, and now it was time to expand on that. She worked long hours, fine-tuning her leadership skills, and learning how to delegate tasks more effectively. Slowly but surely, she started seeing the results of her hard work. Her team was responding well to her leadership, and even though there were occasional bumps in the road, Emma felt more confident with each passing day. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, Emma sat down to relax with her son. She felt a deep sense of pride. She had made it this far, and no matter what happened next, she knew she was capable of handling it. As she looked at her son, sleeping peacefully in his crib, Emma thought about the journey she had taken to get to this point. From the uncertainty and fear that had once defined her life, to the strength and resilience she now carried with her every day, it was a transformation she hadn't even fully realized until this moment. Just then, her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize, but something told her to answer. Hello, she said, her voice soft. Emma, a voice on the other end replied. It was her boss, Ms. Watkins. I hope I'm not disturbing you, she continued. I wanted to reach out to you personally. We've been incredibly impressed with your work, and I wanted to offer you something more. Emma's heart skipped a beat. What could this be? She wondered. What do you mean? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. We're expanding, and we need someone to take on a bigger leadership role within the company, Ms. Watkins said. We believe you're the right person for the job. Emma's mind raced. Just when she thought things were settling down, another opportunity had arrived. This was a chance to elevate her career even further, but the stakes were higher than ever. She took a deep breath, knowing she had to make a decision. I'm honored, Emma replied, her voice steady. I'll take some time to think it over. Of course, Ms. Watkins said. Take all the time you need. We're excited about the possibility of you leading this next phase. After the call ended, Emma sat in silence for a few moments. She had worked so hard to get here, but this was a huge decision. A bigger role meant more responsibility, more pressure, and the possibility of even more uncertainty. But it also meant the chance to continue growing, to lead in ways she had never imagined. She knew this was the next step in her journey, but she couldn't help but wonder if she was ready for it. She thought about Gabriel's words, about everything he had said over the years. You've got this. Keep believing in yourself. With his encouragement, she had come so far, and now she had to decide whether to take the next leap. The next morning, Emma woke up with a clear sense of purpose. She had already overcome so many obstacles, and now, the future was hers to shape. She wasn't going to let fear stand in her way. The opportunity was a big one, but it was also the one she had been waiting for. It was time to embrace it. She called Ms. Watkins and accepted the offer. I'm ready, Emma said, her voice filled with confidence. Let's do this. As she hung up the phone, Emma felt a sense of pride wash over her. She had made the decision, and it was the right one. The journey was far from over, but she was more ready than ever to face whatever challenges lay ahead. This was just the beginning, and she was determined to succeed. Emma had made her decision. She had accepted the new role offered by Ms. Watkins, and with that, a sense of excitement and responsibility washed over her. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment that would define the next stage of her journey. It wasn't just about climbing the corporate ladder anymore, it was about owning her success and proving that she was capable of leading on a larger scale. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Emma spent hours at the office, meeting with the team she would now oversee, setting up meetings with upper management, and familiarizing herself with the complexities of the new role. The workload was heavy, but Emma's determination never wavered. She had worked too hard to get here to let fear or doubt take over. But as she dove deeper into her responsibilities, she realized the true scope of the task ahead. The company was still in the midst of its transition, and with that came new challenges, especially as they were expanding. Emma had always thrived in high-pressure environments, but this was different. The stakes were higher now. She wasn't just responsible for her own success anymore, she was now responsible for a whole department, and the weight of that responsibility was something she had to constantly remind herself to manage. Every decision she made seemed to carry more weight, and she couldn't shake the feeling that there was so much more to learn. She leaned on her team, getting to know each of them better, understanding their strengths, weaknesses, and what motivated them. The more she got to know them, the more she realized that leadership wasn't just about giving orders, it was about creating a space where everyone felt valued, heard, and empowered to succeed. She began to put more effort into motivating her team, making sure that they felt like part of a bigger picture, something important. This approach helped foster a sense of camaraderie, and before long, she started to see the fruits of her labor. Productivity increased, team morale improved, and the department started hitting its targets. But as Emma settled into the role, new obstacles continued to arise. The merger had brought in new leadership, and with it came some tension and differing opinions about the direction the company should take. Emma had to navigate these differences carefully, balancing the needs of her department with the demands of upper management. There were moments of frustration, where she felt as though she was being pulled in too many directions at once, but she refused to let it overwhelm her. She had learned the importance of staying calm under pressure, a lesson she had learned from Gabriel's constant encouragement. One day, after a particularly challenging meeting with the new leadership team, Emma went for a walk to clear her mind. The weight of the decision she had to make was starting to take its toll. As she walked through the park near her apartment, she found herself thinking about her son. She missed him. It had been a while since they'd spent quality time together, and she knew that in her pursuit of career success, she had to find balance. Being a mother was still the most important thing in her life, and she couldn't lose sight of that. When she returned home that evening, she took a moment to sit down and reflect. She looked at the small, quiet life she had built with her son and realized just how far she had come. There was a time when she had been unsure of her ability to provide, to lead, to make something of herself. But now, she had proven that she could not only survive but thrive in a world that often seemed unforgiving. She thought about the people who had supported her along the way. Gabriel's unwavering faith in her had been the spark that ignited her journey. He had always believed in her, even when she had trouble believing in herself. She picked up her phone and sent him a quick message, "Thank you for everything. I don't think I could have done this without you." His reply came quickly, as it always did, "You've done it all yourself, Emma. I'm just glad I could be a small part of it. Keep going, you're unstoppable." Those words brought a smile to her face. It was true. She had done it all herself. Gabriel had shown her the way, but it was her hard work, dedication, and determination that had carried her through. As the weeks continued to pass, Emma found herself in a rhythm. She had learned to manage the pressures of her new role while balancing her responsibilities as a mother. She had created boundaries for herself, making time for the things that truly mattered, while giving her best at work. Her leadership continued to grow, and so did her confidence. She knew that there would always be challenges ahead, but she was no longer afraid of them. She had faced every obstacle thrown her way and had come out stronger each time. One afternoon, she received another call from Ms. Watkins, and Emma's heart skipped a beat. "Emma," Ms. Watkins began, "I just wanted to personally congratulate you. The board has been incredibly impressed with your leadership, and they're recommending you for a higher role. We think you're ready for it." Emma couldn't believe what she was hearing. Another opportunity, even higher than the one she had just stepped into. It was both overwhelming and exhilarating. She took a moment to process the news, her mind racing. This was a testament to everything she had worked for. But it was also a reminder that the road ahead would continue to require hard work and resilience. When she hung up the phone, Emma took a deep breath and looked out the window at the city below. The future was wide open before her. She had climbed higher than she had ever imagined, and yet she knew this was only the beginning. Whatever came next, she would face it with the same strength and determination that had gotten her to this point. And this time, she was more than ready. Emma's life had come full circle. It felt like just yesterday she was struggling to make ends meet, unsure of where her future would take her. Now, she was not only in a high-ranking position within the company, but she was also leading her department with confidence and authority. Her growth, both professionally and personally, had been nothing short of remarkable. But even with all of her success, Emma never allowed herself to forget the struggles she had faced. They had shaped who she was and pushed her to become stronger. There was always a part of her that remained grounded, reminding herself that this success had come from hard work, persistence, and support from the people who believed in her. Gabriel, in particular, had been a constant source of encouragement, and she often found herself reaching out to him when the pressures of her new role became overwhelming. Their conversations, full of wisdom and compassion, reminded her that no matter how far she had come, she was still capable of more. One evening, after an exhausting week at work, Emma sat at her desk, catching up on emails and preparing for the next big meeting. The weight of her responsibilities was starting to feel heavy, but she refused to let it get the best of her. She had faced far greater challenges before, and this was no different. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a message from Gabriel. "I know it's been a tough week, but I just wanted to remind you how amazing you are. You've got this. Keep pushing forward." Emma smiled at the message. His words always seemed to come at just the right moment. They reminded her of the strength she had within herself, the same strength that had gotten her through so much. She quickly typed a reply, "Thank you. It's been a lot, but I'm hanging in there. Your support means the world to me." Gabriel's response was almost immediate. "You're doing more than hanging in there, Emma. You're thriving. Keep believing in yourself." She sat back in her chair and took a deep breath. Gabriel was right. She was thriving. The company had entered a new phase, and Emma's leadership was being recognized. But it wasn't without its challenges. She was constantly balancing the demands of her job with her responsibilities as a mother. It wasn't always easy, but she was doing it. She was building a life for herself and her son, a life that was stable and full of possibilities. As the months went on, Emma's confidence continued to grow. She faced each obstacle with determination and resilience, and with every challenge, she found herself becoming more adept at handling the pressures of her position. She had earned the respect of her colleagues, and her team was thriving under her leadership. Still, there were moments when self-doubt crept in, but they were fewer and farther between. She had learned to trust herself, to rely on her instincts, and to lean on the support of those who cared about her. One day, as she sat in a meeting with upper management, discussing the next steps for the company's expansion, Emma felt a wave of pride. She had once been on the other side of these discussions, unsure of how to navigate the world of corporate decision-making. Now, she was in the driver's seat, making important decisions that would impact the future of the company. The room was full of seasoned executives, but Emma spoke confidently, offering her insights and ideas for the direction the company should take. She was no longer the uncertain young woman who had walked into the company years ago. She had become a force to be reckoned with. When the meeting ended, Ms. Watkins pulled her aside. "Emma," she said with a smile, "I just wanted to tell you how impressed I am with the way you're handling things. You've stepped up in ways I didn't expect. Your leadership has been outstanding, and I'm proud to have you on our team." Emma was taken aback. She had always admired Ms. Watkins, and hearing her praise her leadership was a moment she would never forget. "Thank you," Emma replied, feeling a swell of pride in her chest. "I've worked hard to get here, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to lead." As she left the meeting, Emma couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. She thought about her son, about the life she had built for him, and the sacrifices she had made to get to this point. It wasn't just about career success, it was about creating a future for them, a future filled with opportunities and possibilities. Later that evening, Emma received a message from Gabriel. "How's everything going? I'm proud of all the progress you've made." Emma smiled as she typed her response, "Things are going great. I'm finally feeling like I've found my place here. Thank you for always being there for me." Gabriel's reply came quickly, "You've always had it in you, Emma. I'm just glad I could help you realize it. Keep going, you're unstoppable." His words filled her with warmth and gratitude. She had come so far, and there was no turning back now. She had learned to trust herself, to step into her power, and to take ownership of her success. With Gabriel's unwavering support and her own determination, Emma knew there was no challenge she couldn't overcome. The future was wide open, and she was ready for whatever it held. As Emma settled into her new leadership role, she felt a growing sense of responsibility. The department she now managed was expanding, and the pressure to maintain the company's momentum weighed on her. It wasn't just about making decisions anymore, it was about shaping the future of the company. Every day was a balancing act, managing her team's dynamics, overseeing projects, and making sure that everything was running smoothly. Despite the challenges, Emma had found her stride. She had developed a reputation as a reliable, capable leader, someone who could be counted on to deliver results even under pressure. Her team trusted her, and she had earned their respect. But as the weeks went by, Emma found herself faced with a new dilemma. The work-life balance she had fought so hard to achieve was slipping away. She had always promised herself that she would never let her career consume her, but the demands of the new role were making it harder to keep that promise. She spent more and more time at the office, often staying late into the evening, and her time with her son became increasingly limited. One evening, after another long day at work, Emma arrived home to find her son already in bed. She felt a pang in her chest as she stood at the doorway of his room, watching him sleep peacefully. She had promised herself that she would be there for him, that she would give him the kind of life she had always wanted for herself. But lately, it felt like her career was taking over, and she wasn't sure how much longer she could juggle it all. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, interrupting her thoughts. It was a message from Gabriel. "I know things have been hectic, but don't forget to take care of yourself. You're doing amazing things, but you can't pour from an empty cup. Take a break when you need it." His words hit her like a wake-up call. She had been so focused on achieving success that she had lost sight of the most important thing, her well-being and her family. She quickly typed back, "Thanks, Gabriel. I needed that reminder. I've been so caught up in everything, I've forgotten to take a step back." Gabriel's reply was simple but reassuring, "You're not alone in this. Take the time you need. You've earned it." Emma took a deep breath and walked over to her son's bed. She gently brushed a lock of hair from his forehead and kissed him on the cheek. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," she whispered. "I'm going to do better. I promise." The next morning, Emma made a decision. She would no longer let her career consume every aspect of her life. She would continue to work hard, but she would also prioritize her health and her time with her son. It wasn't going to be easy, but she knew it was necessary. As the days passed, Emma made a conscious effort to balance her work and personal life. She began delegating tasks more effectively, trusting her team to handle the day-to-day operations so she could focus on the bigger picture. She also started setting boundaries, making sure to leave the office at a reasonable hour and spend quality time with her son. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. One afternoon, Emma was sitting in her office, going through her emails when she received a message from Ms. Watkins, her boss. "Emma, I wanted to personally congratulate you. The board has noticed your leadership and they are very impressed with the direction you're taking the department. We're offering you an even more senior position to help guide the company's future growth. Emma stared at the message for a moment, her heart racing. This was the next step, the opportunity she had been working toward. It was more responsibility, more pressure, but it was also a recognition of everything she had accomplished. She felt a sense of pride wash over her. But there was a part of her that hesitated. Could she take on more? Was she ready to push herself even further, knowing that it would mean even less time with her son? She thought about the promise she had made to herself, about finding balance. She couldn't lose sight of what was important. After a few moments of thought, she made a decision. She would accept the offer. But this time, she would do it on her own terms. She would take on the role, but she would continue to prioritize her family and her health. She wasn't going to let the pressure of the position overshadow the life she had worked so hard to build. She called Ms. Watkins to accept the offer, feeling a sense of calm and confidence as she did. "Thank you for the opportunity," Emma said, her voice steady. "I'm excited to take on this new challenge and continue to contribute to the company's growth. But I also want to make it clear that I will be managing my work-life balance moving forward. I want to give my best to the company, but I also want to be there for my son." Ms. Watkins's response was full of understanding. "I appreciate your honesty, Emma. You've been doing incredible work, and I'm confident that you'll continue to excel. We're glad to have you on board, and we'll support you in any way we can." As Emma hung up the phone, she felt a sense of relief. She had made the right choice. She could continue to grow in her career, but she wouldn't sacrifice the things that truly mattered to her. She walked out of her office, smiling to herself. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: she was ready for whatever came next, and she was going to face it with strength, confidence, and the unwavering support of the people who believed in her. As Emma walked into her new role, a sense of purpose and clarity filled her. The transition had been difficult, but it had also been incredibly rewarding. She had faced challenges that tested her every day, but through it all, she had learned to trust herself, to embrace her own strength, and to balance her career with her personal life. Her team, who had once been uncertain about the changes, now looked to her as a confident leader. She had earned their trust, and she was ready to take on whatever the next chapter of her career had in store. Still, the road ahead was far from easy. Emma had learned the importance of delegation. No one could do everything alone, but even so, the weight of responsibility remained. She was determined to continue balancing her role as a mother and a leader. She had promised herself that she would never let her job consume her, and she had every intention of keeping that promise. Over the following months, Emma became more adept at managing her team, streamlining processes, and handling the demands of the business. She'd earned the respect of the higher-ups and was frequently called on to make crucial decisions that would shape the company's future. Her department continued to thrive under her leadership, and she had made a name for herself as someone who could get things done without sacrificing her values or her family. One evening, as Emma sat at her desk, going through reports for the next big project, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Gabriel. "You've been working so hard lately. I hope you're not overdoing it. Remember, you don't have to carry everything alone." Emma smiled at the message. Gabriel had been there for her since the beginning, supporting her every step of the way. He had never once doubted her, and his unwavering belief in her gave her the strength to keep going even when things felt impossible. "I'm doing fine," Emma typed back, "but thanks for the reminder. It's easy to get caught up in everything sometimes." Gabriel's reply was quick: "You've got this. Just don't forget to take a break every now and then. Your health is the most important thing." Emma set the phone down and leaned back in her chair. She had been working tirelessly, trying to make everything perfect, but she knew Gabriel was right. She couldn't keep pushing herself without taking time for herself and for the people who mattered most. She made a promise to herself to slow down, to create more space for the things that brought her joy outside of work. Over the next few weeks, Emma focused on re-establishing balance in her life. She took weekends off to spend quality time with her son, rediscovered hobbies she had once loved, and made sure to take breaks during the workday to clear her head. She was still dedicated to her work, but she had learned that success wasn't just about what she achieved professionally, it was about living a fulfilling life in every sense. Then, one afternoon, Emma received unexpected news. She had been invited to attend a leadership summit in New York City, an event that brought together the top leaders in the industry. It was an incredible opportunity for growth and networking, and Emma knew it would be a huge step forward in her career. She was excited, but also nervous. It felt like another challenge, one that would test her in new ways. As the event approached, Emma found herself contemplating the weight of it all. She had already achieved so much, but now, she was being offered a platform to expand her influence even further. She thought about her son, about how far she had come in balancing motherhood and work, and she knew this summit would take her even further out of her comfort zone. The night before she was set to leave for New York, Emma sat down with her son before bed. She kissed him on the forehead, a mixture of love and gratitude filling her heart. "I'm going to miss you," she whispered, her voice soft. "But I'll be back soon, and we'll spend lots of time together." She smiled, knowing that her career wasn't just for her, it was for him too. She wanted to show him what it meant to work hard, to lead with integrity, and to create a life filled with purpose. The next day, Emma flew to New York City, ready to take on the challenges ahead. She spent 3 days at the summit, attending seminars, networking with influential leaders, and gaining insights that would shape her future. The experience was transformative. She was surrounded by some of the brightest minds in her industry, and she realized just how much more there was for her to learn. At the end of the summit, Emma received an invitation to speak on a panel about leadership and the future of business. Her heart raced as she stood in front of a room full of professionals, sharing her journey and the lessons she had learned along the way. It was a moment of recognition, a testament to how far she had come. She had started as a woman unsure of herself, struggling to make ends meet, and now she was standing in front of industry leaders, sharing her story and inspiring others. As she left the summit, Emma felt a sense of fulfillment she hadn't anticipated. The experience had shown her that her journey was just beginning. There were still so many opportunities ahead, and she was ready to face them with the same determination, resilience, and balance that had brought her this far. She thought about Gabriel, about how he had supported her through every step of this journey. His belief in her had never wavered, and now, Emma knew that she was capable of achieving even more. She was no longer just a survivor, she was a leader, ready to shape the future and inspire others to do the same. After the leadership summit in New York, Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose. The experience had been transformative, opening her eyes to the endless possibilities that lay ahead. She had spoken in front of a room full of influential leaders, shared her journey, and had been embraced as a leader in her field. It was a pivotal moment in her career, one that solidified her belief in herself and her ability to make an impact. But as Emma returned to her daily life, the pressures of her responsibilities began to creep back in. The department she led continued to grow, and with growth came new challenges. She found herself increasingly tied to the demands of her position, often working late into the evening and sacrificing her time with her son. The work-life balance she had so carefully built seemed to be slipping away again. Emma knew she had to act before it consumed her. She had made a promise to herself and her son that she would always find time for what truly mattered. But now, more than ever, it was hard to balance the personal with the professional. One evening, as she was sitting at her desk, going over project proposals and planning for the next quarter, she received a message from Gabriel. "I know things have been busy, but don't forget to take care of yourself. You're only human, Emma. Your health and your happiness matter." Emma paused, reading his message over and over again. Gabriel's words always seemed to find her at the right moment. He had always believed in her and had been the steady anchor in her whirlwind of change. She quickly typed a reply, "Thanks for the reminder, Gabriel. It's been overwhelming, but I'm working on it. I won't let the pressure get to me." Gabriel's reply was as thoughtful as ever, "I know you won't. You've come so far, and you have so much ahead of you. Just remember, you don't have to do it all alone." Emma took a deep breath and sat back in her chair. His message had grounded her. She had to find a way to manage the pressure without losing sight of herself. The following week, she took a step back from her daily grind. She carved out time in her schedule for herself and her son, something she had neglected for too long. She started scheduling family time without distractions, no emails, no work calls, just time to reconnect and enjoy the simple moments. It wasn't easy at first, but Emma knew it was the right choice. She couldn't keep sacrificing her happiness for the sake of her career. The next few months were a journey of rediscovery. Emma found herself working smarter, not harder. She delegated tasks more effectively, trusting her team to handle the day-to-day operations while she focused on the bigger picture. She spent more time with her son, going on weekend outings, and making memories that would last a lifetime. Slowly but surely, she found balance again. She didn't have to choose between being a successful leader and being a present mother. She could be both. Her career continued to flourish as she adopted a healthier, more sustainable approach to her work. The team she had built was thriving, and Emma's leadership had inspired them to take ownership of their roles. The results were tangible, productivity increased, morale improved, and the department was operating like a well-oiled machine. But just as things began to feel stable, Emma found herself facing another test. One afternoon, she received an unexpected call from Ms. Watkins, her boss. "Emma, I have some news," Ms. Watkins said. "We're expanding internationally, and we've been considering you for a role to oversee the new markets. It's a big opportunity, but it would require you to travel frequently and take on even more responsibility." Emma's heart skipped a beat. The offer was exciting. An international role meant growth, recognition, and a chance to lead on a global scale. But it also meant more time away from her son, more time spent away from the balance she had worked so hard to achieve. She thought about the offer for a moment. Her gut told her she wasn't ready to give up the stability she had just built. She had spent years fighting for a balanced life, and now, she wasn't willing to sacrifice it for a higher position. After much deliberation, Emma made a decision. She called Ms. Watkins the next day to politely decline the offer. "Thank you for considering me for the role," Emma said, her voice steady but firm. "I've thought about it carefully, and while it's an incredible opportunity, I've realized that I'm in a place where I need to focus on what matters most to me right now, my team and my family. I'm committed to helping the company grow, but I want to do it in a way that allows me to maintain the balance I've worked so hard to achieve." Ms. Watkins was understanding and praised Emma for her honesty. "I admire your decision, Emma. It's not an easy one to make, but it shows the kind of leader you are. We'll continue to support you in your current role, and I know you'll continue to do great things." Emma hung up the phone with a sense of relief. She had chosen balance over ambition, and in doing so, she had stayed true to herself. She knew the road ahead would still have its challenges, but she was no longer afraid. She had learned that success wasn't just about climbing the corporate ladder. It was about living a life that aligned with her values. As she walked into her office the next morning, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was exactly where she needed to be. And with her team behind her, her family by her side, and the belief in herself that she had fought so hard to cultivate, Emma was ready for whatever came next. As Emma continued to thrive in her role, balancing her professional responsibilities and personal life, she couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment. She had come a long way from the uncertain woman who had once stumbled through difficult decisions and overwhelming challenges. Now, she was a leader, confident, steady, and deeply committed to both her team and her family. The company was growing, her department was thriving, and Emma had learned how to navigate the complexities of her role with grace. Still, the weight of leadership was never far from her mind. She knew that every decision she made impacted not only her team but also the future of the company. With the upcoming projects and the ever-changing market landscape, Emma felt a sense of pressure to maintain the momentum. But even in the face of these pressures, she had learned to trust in her abilities and the people around her. Her team had become more than just colleagues, they were a family, each person playing an integral role in the department's success. The bond she had built with them made the challenges easier to face. One morning, as Emma sat at her desk preparing for a meeting, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Gabriel. I've been thinking about you and your journey. You've come so far, and I'm so proud of everything you've accomplished. Just remember, no matter what, you're enough. You've always been enough. Emma smiled at the message, her heart swelling with gratitude. Gabriel had been there through every high and low, providing the kind of support that was hard to come by. He had always believed in her, and that belief had helped her push through the toughest times. She quickly replied, "Thank you, Gabriel. Your words always mean the world to me. I don't know if I could have done this without you." Gabriel's response came swiftly, "You've done it all yourself, Emma. You're stronger than you realize. And I'll always be here when you need me." With those words, Emma felt a renewed sense of confidence. She knew that she had the strength to keep going, even when the road ahead seemed uncertain. She had already proven to herself that she was capable of handling whatever challenges life threw her way. The next few weeks were filled with new opportunities and obstacles. Emma's team was tasked with taking on several major projects, and the stakes were higher than ever. As the leader, Emma found herself juggling the demands of her department with the needs of upper management. It was a delicate balance, and there were days when she felt stretched thin. But she never let the pressure show. She had learned how to remain calm in the face of adversity, and her team respected her for it. One day, as Emma sat in a strategy meeting with her team, she realized just how far they had come. What had started as a group of uncertain individuals was now a cohesive team, working together to accomplish shared goals. The bond they had built was stronger than ever, and Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in what they had achieved. "I want to thank all of you for your hard work," Emma said, looking around the room at her team. "We've come so far, and it's because each one of you has given your best. I'm proud to work alongside all of you." Her words were met with smiles and nods of appreciation. Emma's leadership had fostered a culture of respect and collaboration, and it showed in the results they had achieved. As the meeting wrapped up, Emma felt a sense of accomplishment. She was no longer just surviving, she was thriving. She had created a team that was not only successful but also supportive of one another. It was a feeling she had always dreamed of but never thought possible. That evening, after another successful day at the office, Emma returned home to her son. As she entered their apartment, her son ran up to her, arms wide open. "Mommy," he exclaimed, wrapping his arms around her. Emma knelt down to embrace him, her heart full of love. In that moment, everything felt right. She had fought so hard to create a life where she could be both a leader in her career and a loving mother. She had found the balance she had always sought, and for the first time in a long time, she felt truly at peace. Later that evening, as she sat with her son and reflected on everything she had accomplished, Emma realized just how much she had grown. She had faced challenges that once seemed insurmountable, but each one had shaped her into the woman she was today. She had taken risks, made difficult decisions, and, most importantly, never gave up. Looking back, she saw how far she had come, from the young woman struggling to find her way, to the confident leader she was now. It was a journey filled with hard work, sacrifice, and growth, and it had made her stronger than she had ever imagined. The future was still uncertain, but Emma knew one thing for sure: she was ready for whatever came next. She had the skills, the support, and the resilience to handle it. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew she would face them head-on, with the same strength and determination that had brought her this far. She had already proven to herself that she was capable of achieving anything. And as she looked at her son, who was falling asleep in her arms, Emma knew that the best was yet to come. As Emma continued to settle into her leadership role, the weight of responsibility never fully left her. The company was expanding, and with it came new challenges. She had once feared that she would not be able to balance her demanding career with her role as a mother, but the progress she had made reassured her that she was capable of handling both. Her team was growing stronger, and so was her confidence. Each day brought new obstacles, but she had learned to approach them with calm and resilience. However, as the company's expansion gained momentum, Emma found herself facing new decisions that seemed more difficult than ever before. The pressure was mounting, and as she worked late one evening to meet an approaching deadline, her phone buzzed with A message from Gabriel. It was a simple message, but one that always managed to calm her. I hope you're taking care of yourself, Emma. You're doing great, but remember to rest when you need to. Emma smiled as she read his words. Gabriel's support had always been her anchor, and he had been right, she had been pushing herself too hard. She quickly replied, "Thank you. I've been working non-stop, but I'll take a break soon. I promise." Gabriel's response was immediate, "You've earned it. Don't forget to recharge. You've come so far, and you have so much ahead of you." The reminder gave Emma the clarity she needed. She had made great strides in her career, but it was time to stop and appreciate how far she had come. She had worked tirelessly, but it was important to stop and reflect, to allow herself to rest and recharge. The next day, Emma decided to take the day off. She spent the morning with her son, taking him to the park and enjoying the simple joys of being a mother. For the first time in a while, she felt a sense of peace. She had found the balance she had worked so hard to achieve. While she knew that her career was important, it wasn't everything. She had learned to prioritize what mattered most, her family and her well-being. As Emma returned to work after her day off, she felt refreshed and ready to take on the next challenge. The company's expansion was moving forward, and Emma was at the forefront of it. She had been given more responsibility, overseeing the integration of new markets and managing larger teams. The tasks ahead were daunting, but Emma was more prepared than she had ever been. She had developed a keen understanding of her team's strengths and weaknesses, and she trusted them to handle the tasks she assigned. One afternoon, as she sat in a meeting with senior leadership, Emma was asked to lead a major presentation about the company's upcoming projects. The pressure was on, and Emma could feel the weight of expectations bearing down on her. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, she embraced the opportunity. She knew her team was capable, and she knew that she had the skills to lead them through this next phase of growth. The presentation went smoothly. Emma spoke confidently, answering questions with poise and offering solutions to the challenges they would face. By the end of the meeting, Emma could sense that her leadership had been recognized. The executives were impressed with her knowledge, her ability to think strategically, and her dedication to the company's success. When the meeting concluded, Ms. Watkins, her boss, pulled her aside. "Emma, I just wanted to say how proud I am of the work you've been doing," Ms. Watkins said. "The company is in good hands with you leading the way. You've been a driving force behind the success of this department, and I can see that you're ready for even greater challenges." Emma felt a sense of pride swell in her chest. She had worked so hard to prove herself, and it was gratifying to know that her efforts were being recognized. "Thank you," Emma replied, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I'm just doing my best to support the team and help the company grow." As she left the meeting, Emma felt more certain than ever that she had made the right choice in embracing leadership. It had been a challenging journey, but she had proven to herself that she was capable of handling the responsibility. However, Emma was not naive. She knew that with greater responsibility came even more challenges, and the road ahead would not always be smooth. She had to continue learning, adapting, and evolving. But she was ready. That evening, after a long day of work, Emma returned home to find her son waiting for her. He ran up to her, excitement written all over his face. "Mommy, Mommy," he exclaimed. "Let's go to the park." Emma smiled, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. This was what mattered most. Her family. The love and support they shared. Emma realized that while her career was important, it was the people she loved that gave her the strength to keep moving forward. She changed into her sneakers, grabbed her son's hand, and headed to the park. As they walked, she felt a sense of gratitude for everything she had accomplished. She had faced so many obstacles, but she had come out stronger each time. She had built a life she was proud of, one where she could be both a dedicated leader and a loving mother. The future was uncertain, but Emma knew that no matter what challenges came her way, she would face them with strength, courage, and the unwavering support of those around her. As Emma stood at the threshold of her future, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. the woman who had once struggled to make ends meet, unsure of her worth, was now standing at the helm of a department she had built from the ground up. She had faced challenges, setbacks, and moments of self-doubt, but through it all, she had risen stronger, more resilient, and more confident than she ever thought possible. Emma's journey had not been easy, but it had been her own. She had fought for every opportunity, for every breakthrough, and had never allowed the fear of failure to dictate her path. She had learned to trust herself, to lean into her strength, and to embrace the challenges that came her way. But most importantly, Emma had learned the power of balance. She had once believed that success in her career meant sacrificing everything else. But now, she understood that true success meant finding harmony between her professional ambitions and her personal life. Her son, the driving force behind so much of her determination, was now growing into a bright and curious young boy. Emma could see the future unfolding before her, a future that was full of possibilities, not just for her, but for him as well. The lessons she had learned were ones she would pass on to him, the values of hard work, resilience, and the importance of finding joy in the little moments. One afternoon, after a particularly intense meeting at work, Emma sat in her office reflecting on the day's events. The company was growing, and with it came new opportunities and responsibilities. The pressure to stay ahead of the competition, to deliver results, and to keep her team motivated was ever present. But Emma no longer felt the weight of it all as she once did. She had learned to delegate, to trust her team, and to ask for help when needed. She had built a foundation of mutual respect and trust, not only with her colleagues but with herself. Her leadership had evolved over time, and she was proud of the woman she had become. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. It was Rachel, one of the team members who had been with Emma since the beginning. "Hey, Emma," Rachel said with a smile, "I just wanted to let you know that the latest project went really well. The client was really impressed with the presentation, and we hit all of our targets." Emma smiled, a sense of pride swelling in her chest. She had worked hard to foster a team environment where every member felt valued, where collaboration and open communication were encouraged. "That's fantastic," Emma replied, standing up to shake Rachel's hand. "I'm proud of all of you. Your hard work is what makes this possible." Rachel's eyes sparkled with gratitude. "We're lucky to have you as a leader," she said. "You've shown us that anything is possible if we put our minds to it." Emma felt a warmth in her heart at Rachel's words. It was moments like this that reminded her why she had taken on the responsibilities of leadership in the first place. She had set out to create something bigger than herself, something that could impact the lives of those around her, and seeing the success of her team validated everything she had worked for. As Emma left the office later that day, she felt a sense of accomplishment. The work was never done, and there would always be new challenges to face, but for the first time in a long while, Emma allowed herself to enjoy the fruits of her labor. The next day, Emma took her son to the park. They spent the afternoon running around, laughing, and enjoying each other's company. For Emma, these simple moments were the ones that mattered most. She had worked hard to create a life that allowed her to be both a mother and a leader, and she was determined to continue living in a way that honored both parts of herself. As they walked home, hand in hand, Emma felt a deep sense of peace. She knew that the journey she had been on was far from over, but she also knew that she had the strength, the support, and the wisdom to navigate whatever came next. The future was full of possibilities, and Emma was ready to face it with courage, determination, and an open heart. She had created a life that she could be proud of, one where she could be a successful leader in her career and a loving, present mother to her son. And as she looked down at him, his bright eyes filled with curiosity and excitement for the future, Emma knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she had already proven to herself that she was more than capable of overcoming them. The journey was far from over, but Emma was ready. She had learned that success wasn't just about achieving goals, it was about finding fulfillment, purpose, and balance. With her son by her side and a team she could rely on, Emma knew that the best was yet to come.